Hello everyone, myself Sukanya Roy, and once again I am back with the biology online classes for HS first year. And we are studying about the fourth chapter, that is Animal Kingdom, and this is our third lecture on Animal Kingdom. Okay, so let's start with our class. So in the last lecture we had already started with the non-chordates. Okay, the what are non-chordates? These are those animals which do not possess notochord. Okay, so in the last lecture, we had already discussed about the first three phylum, okay, or the first three phyla under the group non-chordates. So in today's lecture, we are going to study about three more phyla. Okay, the first one which we will study in today's lecture is Platyhelminths. The second one is about Aschelminthus, and the third one is about Annelida. Okay, so these are the three phyla which we are going to study in the today's lecture. So let's just have an idea about what are this. Okay, so we will start our class with the phylum Platyhelminths. So what does this mean? Platyhelminths means flatworms. Platy refers to flat, okay, and helminths refers to worms. So the organisms which or the animals which are mainly found under this phylum are generally flattened in structure. Okay, they are very much flat in structure. As a result, they are termed as flat worms. Okay, and scientifically we call this phylum as Platyhelminths. Clear? So you can see here some examples are given. This one, this one is an example of tapeworm. Okay, why it is termed as tapeworm? Because it looks like a tape. Okay, you can see it's a very flat kind of structure, and it is very much like dorsoventrally flattened. Okay, as a result, it is termed as uh, means it comes under flatworms, and as it is tape-like in appearance, so it is termed as tapeworm. Okay, and this is the head portion. Okay, head portion of the tapeworm looks like this is another form of worm which comes under this phylum. It's termed as planaria. Okay, and this one is the uh, parasitic fluke. It is actually commonly known as liver fluke because this uh, parasite or this worm actually causes harm to the liver. Okay, and it is found in the liver, and as a result it is termed as liver fluke. So you can see it's a flat kind of structure, right, like a leaf kind of structure, and all of these worms are flat in nature, so they fall under the phylum Platyhelminths. Now let us just have a look at the important characteristics of the organisms under this phylum. So the first one, you can see the first point, they are free living or parasitic. That means the organisms belonging to this phylum can be either free living, that is, they can live on their own terms and do not depend on any other organisms for their livelihood. Okay, so they are termed as free living animals, or the organisms of this phylum can also be parasitic. What do you mean by this? The parasites are those organisms which generally depends upon some other organisms for their food and shelter, and in turn they harm the organism from which they um, like on which actually they depend for their food, that is their host. That means the parasites are very dangerous and they causes harm to the hosts or the animals upon which they actually depends for their food, or at the cost of which they obtain their food and livelihood. Okay, so the organisms under this phylum can be either free living, that is they can be independent, or they can be parasitic, that is they can be dependent on the other organisms for their food and livelihood, and in turn they can harm the hosts. Okay. Next, these organisms are dorsoventrally flattened. Okay, that means the bodies of these animals are dorsoventrally flattened. Okay, you can see here the diagram of a liver fluke is shown. Can you see its body? It looks like a flat leaf, right? A flat leaf-like structure, okay? And as it is a flat structure, that is the dorsal and the ventral portions, both the portions are a bit of flattened, okay? So it is termed as dorso-ventrally flattened. The body is dorso-ventrally flattened and it is bilaterally symmetrical. Can you see? If you want to divide the organism into two halves, then only through the longitudinal plane you can divide the animal, okay, into two equal or two similar halves. Only if you try to divide the animal along this axis, that is the longitudinal axis, only then you will get the right and the left similar halves, okay. But if you want to divide it in any other plane, like if you want to cut it along this plane or this plane or this plane, then you will not be able to get two similar halves. As a result, as it is only divisible into two equal or similar halves, that is right half and left half, only along the longitudinal axis, this axis, okay. So it is termed as bilaterally symmetrical. Clear now, everyone? Okay. Then these organisms are triploblastic. Okay, that is they have what? Three embryonic germ layers, that is ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Okay. So triploblastic, so having three germ layers. Acylomate with organ levels of organization. Acylomate, why? Because they don't have true coelom. Clear? And they have organ levels of organization, that is some organs are present inside their body, but fully developed organ systems, means all the organ systems are not still present, and so they have organ levels of organization. Clear now? Next, hooks and suckers are present in parasitic forms. Now, what is parasites? Already I have discussed. The parasite or the parasitic forms of these animals are those which actually obtain their food and livelihood by harming some other animals or organisms, okay, termed as hosts. They harm their hosts, and at the cost of those hosts, they earn their livelihood and food. Now, to help these parasites while drawing or obtaining their nutrition or food from the host, some organs are developed in these animals. Okay, so these organs are termed as hooks and suckers. And what is the function of the hooks and suckers? You know, they try to attach to the host's body, and as a result, they try to suck out the food or nutrition from the host's body. Now, here is a diagram. You can see it is nothing but the head portion of the tapeworm. Already we have seen in the last slide, right? It is the head portion of a tapeworm, and it consists of, see, these structures, hair-like structures. These are the hooks, and these are the suckers with which it gets attached to the body of the host, and then it gradually draws out the or sucks out the nutrition from their body. Okay. Next, some important or specialized cells are present termed as flame cells, which help in excretion and osmoregulation. So why they are termed as flame cells? This specialized cells actually looks like the flames, okay, the flames of fire. So this cells are termed as flame cells, and they help in excretion. What is excretion? It is nothing but the process by which the nitrogenous waste materials are excreted or taken out of the body. And also the flame cells helps in osmoregulation. What do you mean by osmoregulation? It is a process with the help of which the water and the mineral balance of the body is actually maintained. So which type of cells help in this? Flame cells. Okay, so just try to remember the names. This question actually comes. So like I'm seeing your exam, so just try to remember this. The flame cells help in the osmoregulation and excretion of the platyhelminths. Next, the fertilization in these animals is internal, that is, it takes place within the body, and the development is indirect, that is, the development takes place through the formation of some intermediate stages termed as larval stages. And most of them are hermaphrodites, that is, these animals, in these animals, the sexes are not separate, and both the male and female sex organs are present within the same individual, and so they are termed as hermaphrodites. Clear? So the main examples, some important examples under this phylum are Taenia, Planaria, and Fasciola. Let's see the diagrams. So this is a diagram or an image of a tapeworm whose scientific name is Taenia solium, and the common name of this worm is tapeworm, as it looks like tape. Okay, and it is, you can see, it is a flat structure. The body is a flattened structure, and it is dorsoventrally flattened, right? Next, you can see the other two worms. This one is the planaria, and this one is the liver fluke. So this is commonly known as liver fluke, but its scientific name is Fasciola hepatica. Okay, now let's move to the next phylum, that is phylum Aschelminthes. Okay, so the phylum Aschelminthes consists of the animals which are termed as roundworms. Why they are termed as roundworms? Here, if you like their body is actually cylindrical in structure, and if you try to take out a cross section of their body, then it is actually round in appearance. The cross section is exactly round in appearance, and so these worms are termed as roundworms. Clear? Let's now have an idea about the important characteristics of the phylum Aschelminthes. So the phylum Aschelminthes is also sometimes known as Nemathelminthes or Nematoda, and the organisms which come under this phylum are termed as roundworms or sometimes as nematodes. Clear? So they may be free living or parasitic in plants or animals, like the animals belonging to the phylum Platyhelminths, which were also either free living or parasitic. Similarly, here also the animals belonging to this phylum, that is Aschelminthes, can also be free living or parasitic. That is, they can be either self dependent, okay, for their livelihood and obtaining their food, or they can be parasitic in nature, that is, the organisms which try to obtain their food and livelihood at the cost of or harming the hosts, that is, other types of plants and animals. They do harm the other type of plants and animals, and in turn they obtain their food. Okay, so these are termed as parasites. So here also some of the organisms or some of the animals under this phylum can be free living, while some can be parasitic on some other plants and animals. Okay, next, the animals belonging to this phylum can be either aquatic or terrestrial in nature, that is, they can either live on uh, water, or some animals can live on water while some other lives on the land. So they are either aquatic or terrestrial in nature. The next is bilaterally symmetrical. They are bilaterally symmetrical, which means that you can only divide the animals into two equal and similar halves, that is, the right half and left half, by dividing it only along one longitudinal plane, that is one plane. Okay, so here you can see, taking an example, this is a roundworm. Okay, and if you try to divide it into two similar halves, then only you can do that by dividing it along its longitudinal axis, this axis. Okay, in no other axis you will be able to divide it to get two similar halves. As a result, it is a bilaterally symmetrical animal. Clear? The next is, it is a triploblastic animal. Why? Because it is having the uh, three all the three germ layers while it's embryonic development. Okay, that is ectoderm, enoderm, and mesoderm. All the three germ layers are present, and so it is a triploblastic animals. Okay, next, they are pseudocoelobate animals. So you have to remember this. These are the only animals which are pseudocoelomate in nature. That is, they have a pseudocoelom or a false coelom or a false body cavity. Okay, what why it is termed as pseudocoelom? Because though these animals have a body cavity or coelom, but the coelom is not lined by a mesoderm, and we know that true coelom or true body cavity is that one which is lined by mesoderm. So here, as the coelom or the body cavity present in these animals are not lined by mesoderm, as a result they are termed as false coelom. Okay, and the animals are termed as pseudo coelomate animals. Next, here in this organisms, the alimentary canal is complete. What is alimentary canal? It is nothing but the digestive tract, which begins with the mouth and ends with the anus. So mouth is the opening through which food is taken inside the body, while anus is the opening through which the undigested waste materials are excreted or thrown out of the body. So, the digestive tract or alimentary canal is said to be complete when it consists of two openings. Okay, one is the mouth and the other one is the anus. So, these animals are the first group of animals in the animal kingdom, okay, which have developed a complete alimentary canal or a complete entire digestive tract. Clear now? Okay. Next, they are dioecious, which means that they have a different body for a male and a female. That is, here the sexes are separate. Unlike the animals of the previous phylum, that is platyhelminths, where we've seen that most of them are hermaphrodites. That is, most of them, the sexes were united. Okay, here, unlike that, the animals are dioecious. That means here there uh, there is two different bodies for males and females. That is, the sexes are separate. And generally, in under this phylum, the females are longer than males. Please do remember this. Okay. Sometimes it is asked. Okay. So you can do one thing. You can write in your copies about the first, which is the first group of animals to have complete digestive tract, then which in which group of animals the females are longer than the males, and in which, the third question is, in which phylum, the means which is the only phylum in the animal kingdom to have animals with pseudo coelom. Okay. Next, the important examples are given here: Ascaris, okay, and Wuchereria. So Ascaris is also termed as commonly roundworm, and Wuchereria is commonly termed as filarial worm. So both are involved in like causing some harmful diseases, okay, in human beings. So Ascaris actually causes a harmful infectious disease termed as ascariasis, okay, which is a disease of the small intestine. Okay, and Wuchereria or the filarial worm causes a disease termed as Wuchereriasis or filariasis. Clear? So just to remember the names of the diseases caused by these types of organisms. So here is a diagram of the roundworms, that is Ascaris here. Okay, so it is a male Ascaris and this one is a female Ascaris. So you can see that the body is a long cylindrical one. Okay, and you can see that here the males are smaller than the females, that is the females are the longer ones. Okay, So this is a characteristic, a very important characteristic feature of the animals of this phylum. Okay. Now let us move to the next important phylum under the non-chordates, that is the phylum Annelida. Okay. So just have a look at the important characteristics under the this phylum. So the phylum Annelida consists of animals which can be either aquatic or terrestrial. That is, some organisms under this phylum can be living in water while others live on land. Okay, so they are either aquatic or terrestrial in nature. Next, they are bilaterally symmetrical. Once again, they can be divided into two equal halves along a single plane only. Okay, so they are termed as bilaterally symmetrical, and their body is segmented. Okay, some similar segments are present in the bodies of these organisms, and they have a organ system level of organization. So here are some diagrams important, means like having important animals under this phylum. So you can see that all the organisms are bilaterally symmetrical, clear, and their body, if you observe properly, you will see that, can you see some segments are there, some similar segments are there. The entire body consists of some similar segments. So this is also a very important characteristic feature of the animals under the phylum Annelida. Their body is segmented. Okay. Next, aquatic annelids like Nereis. So this is a annelid, okay, or animal belonging under the phylum Annelida, which is aquatic in nature. That is, it mainly lives in water, and the aquatic annelids consists of some appendages or uh, like some feet-like structures termed as parapodia, which helps them in swimming. Because to live in water, the animal should be knowing how to swim, and here the important lateral appendages termed as parapodia or some feet are present, feet-like structures are present in the body which help them to swim. Clear? Next, some important specialized structures termed as nephridia are present, which helps in osmoregulation and excretion. What is nephridia? It is a tube-like structure which help in excretion mainly. What is excretion? By the process through which the important, like the waste materials or the nitrogenous waste materials are excreted out of the body is termed as excretion. So in this process, nephridia, some tube-like structures, okay, in the body, they help in excretion and also in the osmoregulation, that is to maintain the proper water and electrolyte balance of the body. Next, they are also generally, means like some of them are dioecious while some are monoecious. What is dioecious? In dioecious, two bodies are required for sexual reproduction. That is, males and females are separate. Okay. While what is monoecious? Monoecious means hermaphrodite, where the males and female bodies, means like males and female sex organs are present in the same body. That is, only a single organism is present. Clear? So the examples, important examples are given of Nereis, okay, which is a aquatic annelid, then earthworm and leech. Leech, all of you know, right? It's a blood-sucking animal. So Ferretima is the scientific name for earthworm, and Hirudinaria is the scientific name for leech, which is a blood-sucking leech. Clear? So with this, we have come to an end to our third lecture on the chapter Animal Kingdom, and we will be continuing with this chapter in our next lecture. Till then, stay tuned, study well, and thank you everyone for listening to my lecture.